Vermont, a winter staying with some friend of a friend on the Olympic Peninsula, hiking in moss forests so thick and wet they almost never saw the sun. Tess was shy, a constant reader, especially of all things spooky, dreamy and romantic, and a little bit goth, attaching her literary fantasies to her latest crushes. It never mattered much when they failed to live up to them because she'd be moving soon anyway. College was much the same. Tess got her GED and bounced between community colleges, wherever she could find work, until her Shakespeare professor recognized her potential and encouraged her to consider a career in academia. Tess had never given much thought to what she would do with her life. She was always so consumed with figuring out where she would be next week or next month that concepts like 5 years from now felt too abstract to merit consideration. But Tess's professor helped her transfer to a 4-year school to finish her BA, then apply for doctoral programs in comparative literature. Tess wrote her admissions essay about the witches from Macbeth and the way supernatural beings are so often used in literature to externalize human fears and failings, arguing passionately for the need to study Shakespearean portrayals of the supernatural in a contemporary context. Tess could see herself at a number of schools, but Columbia was her dream. She was so taken with the notion of a Gothic campus in the middle of New York City. As Tess thumbed through a glossy brochure, a slideshow of images ran through her mind. Endless days poring over books in libraries so cavernous and reverent they felt more like cathedrals. The thrill of a new folio coming in, putting on gloves to protect the yellowed pages, the soft sounds and dusty smells as intoxicating as any cocktail. Walking across a stage in sky blue velvet regalia, becoming a celebrated professor traveling the world to lecture eager students, working with Shakespearean theater companies and wearing glamorous gowns to their opening galas, meeting a lover or maybe even a great love who was as passionate about literature as she was, spending their days arguing about poetry and their nights in a satisfied tangle of limbs. The day the thick white envelope arrived bearing news of her acceptance, Tess cried. She could feel the pictures in her head growing crisper, more vivid. Not just fantasies, but possibilities within reach. Tess was a little disappointed she hadn't yet made any friends in her program, let alone found the love of her life, but she wasn't going to let that derail her excitement. She loved being here. She loved doing this. And she'd been a loner for as long as she could remember. Maybe that was just the sort of person she was always going to be. So she had no intention of going to the mixer the department was throwing to celebrate the end of their first full week of classes, until she heard there would be sandwiches. Most of these events had pizza, and while Tess was always thrilled to enjoy a free slice or 3 for dinner, there was no convenient way to snag leftovers to bring home. But wrapped sandwiches? If they were big and Tess was lucky, she could eat for the entire weekend. She didn't bother to change out of the jeans and black tee she'd worn to class that day, but she did bring her roomiest tote bag. The mixer was an uninspired affair held in the department lounge, well attended on account of the sandwiches, and cheap bottles of Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Tess made a half-hearted attempt to join a group chatting about Dickens, mostly because one of the guys was pretty cute. His name was Rick, and Tess often dazed off in their romantic poetry seminar, imagining how it would feel to run her fingers through his soft brown hair. But after 8 minutes exactly, she glanced at the clock on the wall often enough to know, she'd had her fill of ostentatious opinions and decided it was time to grab her sandwiches and get the hell out of there. Only one other girl was by the sandwich table. Most everyone had already gotten their firsts, and it was too soon to politely go for seconds. She looked around 24, same as Tess. She was tall and gawky, Indian American, with deep brown skin and long black hair, wearing cutoffs and a faded green tee. Her body was all angles, sharp elbows and hips and knees.